Hi, folks. We are live. Hopefully, if you're in the background, you've got a chance to watch us. Great. If not, you'll catch this later. I'm live with Colin on site. And as you know, Colin is a specialist, not just a property investor, but he spent over 20 years working as an architect, but also working with investors and himself doing his own developments. I do things with him. He's here on a fresh site today, actually, which is really exciting. Cole, we're going to talk today about planning and some of the things that you look for. So just, I'll hand it over
Yeah,
to you. I've made some notes based on the conversation just given me, and I'll bring the points up on the screen. But I think the first one was context, wasn't it? You were talking about.
yeah. Essentially, there's a number of things. So this is a project. Now, I'm not going to move the camera too much at the moment because I think reception-wise, it's a little bit blurry. So I won't move until I kind of can then show you. So I might as well explain it first. But essentially, this project was an old house that definitely needed some refurbishment to then bring it back up for profit. But the context of this property is in such a good location, but it's on a very wide plot which actually not all of the houses round it actually have. Could we get another dwelling? Well, actually, when we look at planning policy and the context of where this property is, it's got great access, the plot size is super, and we can meet the minimum targets for the planning side of things. We can get another house, and that's what we've literally managed to do last Friday. We've got approval for a second house. So the GDV's gone up. That means the development has obviously gone up, but the potential profit has now increased by gaining planning approval added the value. So I'm really excited about this
And
project.
just on that note, when you talk about can you fulfill the requirements, give them an example of what something might be that needed to be fulfilled on a plot like this, for example.
Yeah, so Dartford and where we are, the housing quota is in such high demand. So they have specific sites that they will look out for development. But what's key to meeting them targets is smaller developers and smaller sites that then can deliver the small 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 unit schemes. So where I am and the high demand and everything about this area, of course, we're only about 20, 25 minutes to central London here. Right,
Yeah.
that's how close we are to London. So the extra housing and adding this new dwelling has met all the policy needs. So we know we had that as a big tick when it comes to making the planning application.
Yeah, and I think the great thing here is that you talked about the opportunities in lots of urban type areas like this. There are these properties with a extra land next to them, and it's just knowing to start looking for
Yeah,
them. And once you set a
yeah,
precedent generally in an area and you get
exactly.
approval, that opens up the door, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it might be actually, we could do a separate video at some point where I take you through the design scheme. So there's a number of things we needed to make sure that we met as criteria for the planners to accept. Okay, so that's floor areas, certain areas, bedroom sizes, bathroom facilities, disability entrances, things like that I had to incorporate. All right, so maybe I can take you through that. But what I was going to do, if I walk over the other side of the road, I can show you the building,
Yeah.
and I think
Okay.
that would be really, really good.
Yeah.
So just bear with me. Hopefully the quality won't go too flaky.
Cole, so just number two, you'd
So I'm
given
just
me as a
gonna
point that you wanted to
about getting
cover.
run over.
One of the
Right,
areas
and then I'm just gonna spin the camera around.
looks like we've lost him actually. Oh, there we go.
Can you see me?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's not hugely
Right, I'm gonna
clear. What
calm
I
down the
might
camera.
what I might do is get you to film this, and we'll add it as a later piece as well.
Okay. Yep, we can do. So I'm just gonna quickly pop it round. We've got our house over here, and we've got a garage with a van in front. All right. So we could see the site context for this property had a wide plot. Now, not every single property down this road has that, but we could see the benefit and the potential. So testing it with the council, and we got planning approval now for 2 houses. So we're literally going to create another one of these on the side. It's going to be reduced in width in overall on both, but they're going to have a deep extension to the rear. So that means that we can actually meet a brilliant size 2 to 3 bedroom house here, meeting all of their requirements.
It's going to be lovely.
So we've
And
stripped it all out at the moment, and now we've done. Yeah,
so on that note, so I've got. Let me go back to the notes that we were taking just before I came up, because I asked Colin what key things he wanted to cover. So policy, the key thing you're talking about here is making sure that you're in line with whatever the overall policy is. You want to build a relationship with your planning department, let them know that you're on their side, not trying to squeeze as much out and abuse, if you like, the land space. Would that be a fair way of articulating it? Oh, we've lost your
Yeah,
sound, Col.
because the
There we go.
council could deem it as overdevelopment of
Do you want
the
to go back
site.
to
So
the
you
house? Do you want to
can you
move
hear
up?
me? Is that better?
Yeah, you might want to
I
head
will.
back over the other side. It's
I'll walk over. Seems to be a bit stronger, doesn't it?
the
This is the thing
live.
about being on site, isn't it?
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
the thing. You never get it all straightforward. But the council could deem certain elements as overdevelopment,
Yeah,
which means that they would then say, actually, you're doing too much on this site. So what in terms of this scheme I designed was to make sure that we had good garden space, good amenity space, and we didn't cram in too much. There was no way we could have got more than an extra one dwelling, right? Because the site suits the extra one dwelling. But on other sites, you could be deemed to overdevelop. So that's one thing that the planners always look for. Although they need housing, they don't want to see overdevelopment. So that's a big key part of the planning policy. But this fit all of their criteria, and I liaised with the planning officer all the way through the application. Right. So if there was a concern at any point, I could then amend that scheme to
yeah.
get it supported for approval, and that's actually what we did. I had to prepare some more drawings for them to support the application, but that meant that building that rapport was ever so important. The extent the date for determination was pushed back because they needed to take that on board. But once we got it, happy days. And now we're on the exciting bit, right? Because we've done the hardest bit. The hardest bit, gaining value by planning, is complete. We've got the
Yeah.
approval. Now building control, design, and there's a couple of things I wanted to check today with the builder.
I mean, those of you watching this who are more wanting to be hands-on as an investor, these are important things to be aware of so that when you're choosing to work with your specialist, someone like Colin, you've got the right person that knows what to do. If you're sat here and you're kind of more of an armchair investor and you're thinking, well, this is great, I'd like to be involved with a project like this, but I don't necessarily want to physically do it, that's a slightly different model. Like in our example, we have people come and they go, well, I've got cash, can I invest and have some benefit from that, but don't necessarily want to be involved with the project? And if you're watching that and these are your eyes and that's what you're thinking, you just want to make sure that this sort of thing is going on. The people that you're working with, the company that you've invested into, that you're working on a project like this, you have the likes of Colin there that know what they're doing. Because otherwise, angel investors can put money into a project only to find out that the person they're putting the money into the project with, Col, doesn't have the right team in place. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, you can always run that risk, can't you? Especially if you are an armchair investor, you're actually leaving it to them, right? So it's down to them. Now, on this project row, you're going to be quite involved to a certain degree where you're going to come to site every one
Yeah.
or 2 weeks and I'll be talking you through. And we want people, excuse me, we want people to learn from this and be able to actually show this as something that they can look at and say, actually, do you know what? I could do that. But you can't just go and jump into it. You do need the right team. So I've got the contractor here today. We're going through a number of things that I'm already thinking about. We've got planning permission. What's the next stage? So it's building control, approval, getting the contractor, lining up the schedule of works, all of these things. They're really important, but it's a process. And if you don't know that process and have the right people, yes, you can become quite unstuck.
Yeah, and the last point you had up, which I'll pull back up, was meeting the builder. So getting the
Yeah.
builder involved early, and I've known that over the years. I found that when I first started, I used to bring them in a little bit later down the line. But actually, on a project like this, it's got to be right up front, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, it's great, right? Because we're looking at the drainage here today. I know that doesn't sound too fun, but that's really, really important. So we're looking at things like the drainage and the incoming services. They're actually the vital things right at the beginning we need to get in, right? That's not something you do at the end. You've got to do that now. So we want to make sure that we've got all the connections coming in. We've got to make sure with regards to drainage, because we've got new extensions going on. We've got footings going in. How are we going to do that? Now, it's all well and good doing a drawing, but when it's on site, somebody's actually going to have to build this stuff. So we
Yeah.
need to know early on how we're going to do that. So I like to kind of nip these things in the bud early so the contractor knows, and then it's pushing on from there. So we're going to use a modern method of construction here using SIPS panels and eco, more sustainable building methodologies. So we're now going to incorporate that. But at this stage, on site, got planning, right, we're going to nail these bits today, and then we're going to move on to the next stage.
That's fantastic. I might ask you a bit later on to see if we can do a quick video whilst he's there. If not, the next time you're on site, just to understand some of that conversation that happens, to give people a chance to understand that process as well.
Yeah, no
All right,
problem,
Cole.
no
Well,
problem.
while you're down there today, I might see if I can get you back on to talk about finances. If not, we'll do that on another occasion.
Perfect, no problem
Lovely.
at all. I've
Thanks
got a
for
lot to
joining
do.
us, Cole. Brilliant, man. Have a good day.
Yes.